Sev omnis, and this is the seventh and final part of Explain Ukrainian Lost Media Iceberg. So, let's go!
Одна ніч.
One Night is also known by such titles as Signals from the Sea and The Light Went Out is a 1927 film, which was shot at the Yalta Film Studio. To start with the plot, on a Russian ship, which became state property after the revolution, there are hidden jewels. Unfortunately, it was not sunk. Two Russian white emigrants know about this. The first is a former shipowner, and the second is a skipper. They decide to find and take away those scandalous jewels. Without revealing their plans, they involve an unemployed Englishman motorist in this case. The three of them cross the border and get to that ship with jewels. At the last moment, the Englishman, realizing the criminality of the whole plan of the white emigrants, calls the Soviet Coast Guard. Fortunately, he was more responsible before the law. The border guards arrest the two criminals and take away all the jewelry. The script for this film was written by Mikhail Abramovich and Lazar Frankel. The film has not survived to this day, and therefore status, fully lost. Kalanchak live-streamed the 24th of February 2022. I can still describe how my day went on February 24th, 2022, but still, this is not about my emotions. This is about what happened that day at the Kalanchak checkpoint. There, it's about how the Russians started a full-scale war. Status, fully lost. Don Kіхот Volodymyr Samoijlenko's translation. This is about the Ukrainian translation from the original language. I'm talking about Don Kіхот. In order to read it completely, you need to allocate a lot of time. If I tell you about the plot quite briefly, the main character, whose name is Don Kіхот, reread all possible novels and absolutely works about knights that he has in the library. Because of this, he believed that he was a knight who must save everyone. Of course, within Spain, Don Kіхot decided to start all his adventures from La Mancha. All because he literally lived a significant part of his own life there. For example, he mistook windmills for giants. Also, during his absurdity, he met Sancho Panza, who became his assistant. Fortunately, Sancho turned out to be not a figment of Don Quixote's imagination. I will not spoil what happened next so that you can read in your free time. I remember that this is a translation by Volodymyr Samoijlenko. Here, specifically, about the original manuscript of his own translation of Don Kіхот. I have described the first part quite briefly. As for the mention of this manuscript, it can be found in Mykola Zhirov's sonnet Samoijlenko. It talks about its loss, as you might have guessed, status, fully lost. Magnetic Anomaly. Magnetic Anomaly is a 1923 film made at the Odessa Film Studio, or VUFKU. Whichever is easier. I'll move on to the plot. It all starts at a metallurgical plant that doesn't have enough iron to work on. Because of this bureaucratic red tape, the trust responds very sluggishly to the plant's request. Meanwhile, an engineer from that plant goes to the Kursk province to investigate the magnetic anomaly. However, the only thing the engineer manages to find is iron deposits in the trust's warehouses. Ukrainians in France. Ukrainians in France is a 1953 film that tells the story of the lives of Ukrainian immigrants in Paris. This film was shot by Boris Dniprov several years after emigration. According to the director, it was one of his first works. Until now, there was no opportunity to watch this film, but fortunately, a channel called Edmonton published this film on January 2nd, 2022. I left a link to the full film in the comments. Status found.
Велике горе маленької жінки.
The Great Sorrow of a Little Woman is also known under the title As It Sometimes Happens. This is a 1929 film, which was shot at the Odessa Film Studio. According to the plot, in the turmoil of the Civil War, Galia Oskilko is lost with her husband. For a long time, she remains faithful to him. Meanwhile, Pavla Kovalchuk, her friend's brother, has long been indifferent to Galia. Galia responds to him with quiet reciprocity, but she is kept from such close relations with him by the hope of finding her lost husband. By chance, she learns that her husband is alive, working in Kharkiv. Galya goes to him, but the meeting ends quite tragically for Galya, Serhiy, who already lives with another woman and they are married.
Земля, кличе.
The Land Calls is also known under the names The Cry in the Steppe and The Rabbi's Daughter. This is a 1928 film, which was shot at the Odessa and Yalta film studios. The whole plot begins in a Jewish town called Ledenya. Gittel, who is a rabbi's daughter, loves a blacksmith named Hurdle, but she is arranged to marry the son of the rich Peni Shtakfroim. On Shtak's lands confiscated by the revolution, Hurdle establishes his own agricultural artel. Shtak's father incites his own son Froim and the town thug Zeidel to set fire to the artel buildings. The fire that breaks out during the wedding of Froim and Gittel is extinguished. Gittel runs away from Froim to her beloved Hurdle. The script of Moise Zat's Anathema Harem was approved by the VKRK Protocol No. 3009 on May 23, 1927. Work on the film began on July 15, 1927, Yalta, and was completed on January 19, 1928, Odessa. The film was released on June 19, 1928. Status: fully lost.
Маруся.
Marusia is a 1938 film and was a Ukrainian diaspora film in Canada and the USA. According to the plot, an engaged couple named Marusia and Hrytsko are separated by an old hunchback, the richest man in the village. That hunchback's name is Koma. The film was created in the USA in the Ukrainian language by representatives of the diaspora, based on the work of Mikhailo Staritsky O. Don't Go, Hertzia, and at the party in 1872. The premiere of this film took place on December 15, 1938. Now you can create conspiracy theories about the fact that almost all film premieres are released on Thursday. I left a link to the entire film in the description of this video. Status: found. On the Fish Fishing Ground. On the Fish Fishing Ground by Mykola Kulish is a 1913 play written while he was studying at the gymnasium. It can be said that this is his first play that he wrote as a playwright. He translated it into Ukrainian from Russian 12 years later, namely in 1925, and it became the basis for another play called This Is How the Goose Died. Status: fully lost. Mospoligraph Pencil. Mospoligraph Pencil is literally a film about pencils and their advertising at once, which was shot in 1927. To briefly describe it, it is a cultural and production film about the production of pencils at the Mospoligraph factory. Status: fully lost. DoomCraft. The game was developed on the engine from Warcraft 2000, nuclear epidemic using resources from the game Doom. The development of the game was cancelled in January 1999. It is believed that the main reason for the cancellation was the fact that GSC Game World entered the legal gaming market. Some of the developments from DoomCraft may be used in the next game in the same genre and on the same engine. Status: and released.
Суддя Рейтан.
Against the backdrop of all the revolutionary events in Romania at the beginning of the 20th century, the story of the lives of two similar and different personalities unfolds. At the same time, people who are similar to each other, like twins, revolutionary Tom and Judge Reitanescu. The judge sentences the revolutionary to death. However, Tom, taking advantage of his resemblance to the judge, changes into a judge's clothes and runs away. His wife does not recognize Tom and, taking him for an executioner, tries to carry out her justice with a shot. Meanwhile, the police also take Tom for a judge and take him to the Reitanescu villa. The real judge is sitting in a cell at this time, waiting for the sentence, which, as it turned out, he himself made. This incident proves that he is really a judge. All possible gendarmes go to the Reitanescu villa to find the pseudo-judge. But his friends and wife manage to save Tom. Status: fully lost.
Млин в узліссі.
The Mill on the Edge of the Forest, also known as Smoke Over the Precipice, a Ukrainian film from 1928. It was made at the State Technical School of Cinematography of the VUFKU. The director of this film was Vadim Yunakovsky. From the plot you can understand that these are the years of the NEP. The main character is a former forester who plans to appropriate his old mill near a small river on the edge of the forest. However, by order of the district authorities, this mill is leased to an artel of disabled people. In order to fix the mill engine, a young mechanic communist Shipov comes from the city. Between him, the forester's daughter, whose name is Nadika, and her brother Serhiko, sincere, warm, and friendly relations arise. The forester steals the necessary spare parts for the artel engine and hides them in the forest. Serhiko finds all the stolen parts. He gives this entire set to Shipov so that he can use them. Seeing how Serhi hands Shipov a box with spare parts, the angry father rushes with a gun to catch up with Nadika and Serhi, but his own carelessness with the weapon kills him. Nadika and Serhi become assistants to the mechanic Shipov at that artel mill. This was an experimental work of students of the Odessa State Technical School of Cinematography VUFKU. The premiere of the film took place the 26th of October 1928 in Kiev. The film has survived without the first and second parts, therefore, status partly lost. Kino magazine. Kino is Lviv's cinematographic magazine. It was published in 1930 to 1936. This magazine is in no way connected with the Kharkiv version except for Ukraine. This magazine was a bi-weekly. If you know Ukrainian, you can understand that it is about the film industry. This magazine covered quite different aspects of the film industry. It was the only Ukrainian language magazine with such content in Galicia at that time. This magazine encouraged Galicians to develop the amateur film industry. This magazine also had such sections as theater, news from the theater, reflections of the year, radio and photo, which told about news from the theater and cinema. Status fully lost. Virgil's Aeneid Zerov's translation. The Aeneid by Virgil is an epic poem in Latin, written by Virgil between 29 and 19 BC. It is dedicated to the story of Aeneas, the legendary Trojan hero and ancestor of the Romans. Here is the translation and manuscript version by Mykola Zerov, which has not survived to this day. Status fully lost. Revolution in Ukraine by Vasil Shakrai. Revolution in Ukraine is a book by Vasil Shakrai, which describes the situation in Ukraine and the revolution that took place in 1917. Also, in particular, about the path from autonomy to independence, the formation of the Ukrainian Central Republic, the proclamation of the UN, and the formation of the Central Executive Committee of the Councils of Ukraine, the negotiations in Brest, the offensive of German Austrian troops, and the formation of the Hetmanate of P. Skoropadsky. Status fully lost.
Людина з лісу.
The Man from the Forest is a 1928 Ukrainian film shot at the Odessa Film Studio. The plot begins in what were the first years of Soviet industrialization. The main character, disguised as a hunter, hides in the forest where the construction of a new power plant begins. A former White Guard officer Polos, connected with foreign intelligence. Suddenly, while photographing buildings, Polos notices a certain student intern. Fearing exposure, the White Guard kills the guy and saws up the scaffolding of the main building of the power plant. It's a rather unexpected beginning to a true crime story. In case of failure, counting on the support of his ex-wife Katya, Polos kidnaps her 10-year-old son. Engineer Gray, the father of the stolen boy, finds Polos' forest hideout, and his assistant Varava kills the White Guard with a well-aimed shot just as he is trying to blow up the main building of the power plant. The film script was approved by the VKRK Protocol No. 2209 on the 10th of October 1926. Work on the film began on the 5th of April 1927 and was completed on the 26th of September 1927. The film premiered on the 1st of February 1928 in Kiev. Status fully lost.
Борислав сміється.
Borislav Laughs is a 1941 Ukrainian film, which was based on the book of the same name, and there were also a couple of other books, but still, I'll move on to the facts about this film. Ivan Franco's son was one of the screenwriters who worked on this film. From what has survived, this is one scene, although there is some quite adult content. There is even a scene that practically deserves a Darwin Award. They only shot half of the entire film. They couldn't do the other part. because the second stage of World War II had begun. It was impossible to conduct and finish filming there. I just realized that it is relatively easier to film in Ukraine now compared to those times. Although there is still a full-scale war in Ukraine, status and released. Rock-Courier magazine. Rock-Courier is a Ukrainian magazine from Kharkiv, which was dedicated to the topic of rock, status, fully lost. Stella Maris. Stella Maris is a silent film from 1918. According to the plot, Stella Maris is a beautiful girl with paraplegia who is cared for by her wealthy and influential family. They protect the main character from the harsh realities of the world so that she does not imagine the cruel deeds that some people do. Unity Blake is a poor orphan who is all too familiar with the harsh realities of the real world. These two young women both fall in love with the same guy named John, and their love is complicated by the fact that he is still married although divorced to a bad wife. Status found. Kaliu Crimean Tatar dubbing. I remember when I was on summer vacation in Crimea around 2012-2013, I could catch a broadcast of this cartoon. For those who know the plot, you will understand what I mean, but if not, I recommend watching or reading books about it. A small spoiler, it's about the various adventures of a boy named Kalo. So, I'm talking about the serial part here. Everything is as usual, but there was a Crimean Tatar voice acting, but unfortunately, due to the Russian occupation of Crimea and the destruction of its language and culture, it became lost media. By the way, 10 years later, when I accidentally saw it, I accidentally found books about Kalo in my hometown, but in Ukrainian. Don't ask how it turned out. Status, fully lost, but last seen from last episode.
Синій пакет.
The Blue Package is a 1926 film shot at the Odessa Film Studio. According to the plot, during the liberation struggle in Ukraine, in a typical village, an uprising of pro-Bolshevik forces against the Haydomics and the Polish nobility is being prepared. The leader of the rebel camp, nicknamed Zub, suggests to the rebel committee to establish contact with the Red Army headquarters of Gerchik, which is located not far from the village. For this, a young worker, Peter, who is Zub's son, is sent to Gerchik with a package. There, Peter receives a secret letter. Returning home, Peter stops by his girlfriend Nadia. Her father, a rich man, steals the secret blue package. Peter finds out about this only in the rebel camp. Nadia saves her lover from being shot. She arrives on horseback in time to the detachment and delivers the blue package stolen by her father, based on the adventure story by Kay Hain In the Name of Discipline. The premiere of the film took place April 20th, 1926 in Kiev. This film has not survived to this day. Status, fully lost. The 1st of February 1939 TV broadcast. The first official broadcast took place in Kiev on the 1st of February 1939. It was 40 minutes long and showed the portrait of Sergo Orjonikidze. At the same time on Pershny Ukrainsky. Now this channel is called Public Broadcasting. Fortunately, this channel still exists, but that broadcast was not preserved and therefore the status fully lost. Corpse No, 1346. Corpse No, 1346 is a silent feature film by Vladimir Krivtsov, which was filmed in Kiev. The film is lost. About the plot. At the name day celebration, young Dr. Brodsky falls in love with a girl named Lisa. In the plot, she was the daughter of the rich owner Rostov, and she reciprocates him. After a luxurious ball, Brodsky was forced to go to the hospital where he worked to help a terminally ill patient and where he accidentally became infected with putrid poison. Heavy days of illness are coming. Lisa receives a long-awaited proposal of marriage from a second man, which she informs Brodsky about, but does not receive a response. Just morally not in a good situation, she marries a second man and goes abroad. Fortunately for him, Brodsky recovers, but his career as a doctor is over for him because of the situation with the patient. Having learned about the betrayal of his beloved, he begins to drink alcohol to the full. That's what I don't recommend doing. It's good that there is an option with a choice of psychologists, psychotherapists, and psychiatrists. And our passes, a previously brilliant doctor becomes a regular of a suspicious innkeeper. That case brings him into contact on the street with Liza, who has returned from abroad, and who does not recognize him. Wanting to rise to his former position in society at all costs, Brodsky agrees to take part in the robbery of the post office. At night, the robbers are rushing, but suddenly some hitchhikers surrounds the trio and he realizes exactly what the thieves are up to. The robbers kill the coachman and want to rush on, but Brodsky decides to save the dying coachman and refuses to participate in the crime itself. Enraged by their failure, the robbers settled accounts with Brodsky with a revolver blow and also decided to throw him into a ditch. In the fading memory of the dying Brodsky, pictures of former happiness with Liza flash one after the other. And 2 days later, an unknown corpse under number 1346 is exhibited in the city mortuary. This is bullshit, kids. The moral is as follows: do not get drunk with alcohol until you are in an incomprehensible state. If she is talking about how this film disappeared, then it disappeared in 1915 because of the First World War. Only information about this film has been saved. According to this status, is fully lost. Servant of the People. This is not about a film starring Volodymyr Zelensky and his party. It refers to a 1960 film. Unfortunately, almost all possible information about the 1960 film Servant of the People has disappeared. It is known that the Kiev film studio named after Alexander Davzhenko planned to shoot a film with that title in 1960. This fact is mentioned in Boris Berest's History of Ukrainian Cinema, published in 1962. However, possible details about the plot or cast of this film have not been preserved, and it is unknown whether its shooting even began. Not even who the producer and director are. The status is unreleased.
Україна смерть у травні.
If we talk about this group, then it is a Ukrainian dark folk group that debuted with the albums Death in August and Death in June. It seems that, we need to make 9 more albums by force, which will contain the names of all the months of the year. Now I will move on to our case with the name Death in May. Yes, it has not been released. This album was planned to be released between 2002 and 2003. It was planned that it would contain between 10 and 11 songs. Some of these songs can be found in the album Death in August. This is even though the group itself broke up in 2009 and the vocalist of this group died in Cambodia in 2017. Status: unreleased. Karl Brunner. Karl Brunner is a 1936 film, also known as Hold On, Carlos, a lost Ukrainian Soviet film from 1936, and is an adaptation of the story of the same name by the Hungarian writer Bela Balázs. The film was created at the Odessa Film Factory at the Ukraine Film Studio. The main location shooting was carried out in the mid-1930s in Kharkov. Presumably, the film has not survived, except for a small found fragment. The plot tells us about children of different ages during the struggle of Germans of different political ideologies in the mid-1930s. As you might have guessed from the title of this film, the main character's name is Karl Brunner. In the plot, he is the son of an underground woman who is being hunted by the police. Status: fully lost. Yes, I know I didn't tell you everything, but this video is still going to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to receive new episodes with iceberg analysis. Goodbye and see you soon.